All right, everyone. I have way too much stuff in this presentation in far too little time, so I guess it's time to roll tape. Please keep your arms and legs inside the ride vehicle at all times. Also, sorry ahead of time. There will probably be some sound adjusting on the run. I hope I don't give myself and everybody else a jump scare, so roll tape. Let's see what happens here.
Here we are, kids, at Your Mama's Got a Fat Ass theme park. That's so weird. Why would they name it that? Anyways, let's go on in. Hey, kids, you want some popcorn? $100? What the hell? Hey, Bucko, why don't you run to the bathroom real quick? $100 to use the bathroom? What the... How is this legal? I gotta speak to a manager or something. I don't think this roller coaster's finished. Why is there a line here? Oh my god, they're falling. Oh my god, they're falling. Must be part of the ride. Must be part of the ride, kids. No. We're not going in the hedge maze. Your uncle went in there last year and he never came out. That's where he's been. Yeah. Some say if you listen quietly, you can still hear him. Timmy! Do you hear that? There's a lot more urine and vomit than I expected. A lot more. That guy just got picked up by tweezers from the sky. I want to do that one next.
Well, hey y'all. Thanks for coming out to my panel today. I really hope it's worth your while. So my name's Mikaela, and I've been a lifelong RCT fan since I was a kid. So my introduction to the game was when my dad randomly brought home this exact disc, which I did not pull out for some reason, but I promise is in here, that one of his coworkers had burned in 99, 2000-ish. And while I couldn't find any pictures of me playing the game, I did dig up this old family of me in the family computer room, and Loopy Landscapes just happens to be sitting on the desk. So I'm also a coaster enthusiast, a quote-unquote "thuzy," as you will. That's what we call ourselves. Thuzy enough, actually, that I'm a card-carrying member of the American Coaster Enthusiasts as of April of last year. So this is a group photo we took at my first event, Ace Dives at Busch Gardens this past June, and while I've only been to 3 events so far, I'm absolutely loving the perks. Talk to me afterward. And also, I didn't really know where to put it, but please enjoy this photo of me and 2 of my besties sitting in the front enjoying a quaint ride on Phantom's Revenge at KennyCon last July. Sorry, Mary. She's in the back. But this is not a presentation about real roller coasters and theme parks, no matter how much I want to talk y'all's ears off. No. Today, I will be taking you on a ride through the RollerCoaster Tycoon franchise, its history, and the legacy of the original 2 games. I will also be talking about the modern community and show off some crazy creations that people have made in the past 20 years or so. But if you're lucky, you might even get a chance to answer a trivia question, or learn some useless theme park facts, or both. I guess we'll see. But before I begin, I just have a few disclaimers I want to give off. 1, I am definitely a casual fan. Don't tell anybody outside this room, but I haven't even completed all the scenarios in the first or the second games. So while I might know a lot about the history now because of research for this panel, I'm definitely not an expert when it comes to playing the game itself. Also, this panel will heavily focus on the first 2 games. Sorry fans of the 3rd game, I promise I'll mention it, but I won't be covering it in detail. I'm so sorry. Also, RollerCoaster Tycoon is a real mouthful to say 100 times an hour, so I'll also be referring to it as RCT, so if you hear RCT, I'm saying RollerCoaster Tycoon for short. But now that that's out of the way, I guess let's dive right into the history here. So let's all first say hello to Chris Sawyer, Scottish game developer, future creator of the series, and ironically, a hater of roller coasters as a child. So, Sawyer began his career in software development in 1983, writing games for the Memotech MTX. In 1988, he began porting popular Amiga games to the PC and the hyper-efficient yet clunky as heck to code in assembly coding language. Over the years, Sawyer developed and coded a number of games in assembly. He would eventually code RCT in this, but more on that later. So we're going to fast forward a few years into the early 90s. In his spare time, Sawyer was building a 3D isometric game world system just for fun because, in his words, isometric graphics had always fascinated him. He'd also been having fun playing Sid Meier's Railroad Tycoon, originally released in 1990. These two hobbies eventually collided when he thought it would be fun to try having little trains running around in his game world. And of course, this project eventually morphed into the city/business simulation game Transport Tycoon, which he later released in 1994. Sawyer was the sole dev behind the game, music was composed by John Broomhall, Simon Foster was the artist behind the graphics. And funny enough, the game was actually picked up and published by Microprose, who was the same publisher behind Railroad Tycoon, and another title you might be familiar with, Sid Meier's Civilization. After its release, Sawyer continued to expand and improve on the game, releasing Transport Tycoon Deluxe in 1995. So, like this gameplay you see over here, does it seem familiar at all? So Transport Tycoon was very clearly a predecessor to Sawyer's future mega hit. We've got the same isometric style, very similar graphics and UI, and honestly you could probably port assets from one game into the other and they wouldn't look out of place at all. In other words, Transport Tycoon was a total success for Sawyer. It sold very well and got a lot of great reviews. He ended up using the money he made off the game to travel Europe and the United States and ride a bunch of roller coasters, honestly living the dream, so envious. So as he rode more and more, he began to appreciate them and eventually did a complete 180, converting into the enthusiast he is today. Sawyer couldn't get enough now. He bought books about coasters, joined the Roller Coaster Club of Great Britain, took organized trips to theme parks. He even started taking notes when he went to parks on how they were built and ride factors such as excitement, intensity, and nausea. Seeing any breadcrumbs yet? So Sawyer had eventually planned to release a sequel to Transport Tycoon, but his new obsession got him thinking that his designs for transit systems could just as easily be applied to coasters. He ended up putting his Transport Tycoon sequel on hold in order to make, can you guess? But before the big reveal, if it wants to go, we have our first trivia question of the day. Time for some trivia. I promise there's a few more throughout the deck. This won't be your only chance to answer. So after I ask the question, please raise your hand if you think you know. I'll pick the first person I see. I'm sorry if it's actually not the first person. I'm trying my best up here. And I'll give two people the opportunity to answer it if the first person gets it wrong. So 2 people in total per question. Get it right, and I'll give you a key for RollerCoaster Tycoon 2 on GOG.com. And get it wrong, and you will still get a consolation prize, some of these lovely Mr. Bones Wild Ride stickers from RGB in the vendor's room. And while I don't want to hold things up too long, prizes will be divvied out at the end, so just come see me at the end. So with that in mind, trivia question number 1. What was Roller Coaster Tycoon's working title during development? Was it The Incredible Scream Machine, Theme Park Simulator, White Knuckle, or Coaster Crazy? Yes. Yes! Excellent. Excellent. That's a good one to start off the day. So yeah, the answer is White Knuckle. That was the original name. Oh, wait. Come up after and I'll give you your prize. Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. So I couldn't find any evidence on this necessarily, but it might have been named after White Knuckle Ride by Mark Wyatt, which was the first book on roller coasters that Sawyer ever bought. The game's name was later changed to RollerCoaster Tycoon to match the Tycoon format first established with Transport Tycoon. So, moving on. So Chris Sawyer eventually releases RollerCoaster Tycoon in 1999. Alistair Brimble provided sound and music scoring, and Simon Foster returned to create the graphics and sprites for the game. In this new gaming experience, Sawyer strove to capture the joys of being in a theme park, and I think he hit the nail on the head considering it was the #1 selling PC game in terms of copies sold in 1999. It made $19.6 million and sold over 700,000 copies that year alone. It was so successful, in fact, that 2 expansions adding new content to the game were eventually released. First, we had Corkscrew Follies, also known as Added Attractions in the UK in 1999, as well as Loopy Landscapes in 2000. So, RollerCoaster Tycoon was coded alone by Sawyer in 86 assembly, and this is why it ran so smoothly. This is a big deal, and it's such a big deal, in fact, that I have to talk about this for a second. Well, I'm going to show you all somebody else talking about it. I'm not a developer, and she isn't either, but I really like Gabby Bell's explanation of why Sawyer was an absolute mad lad for doing this in her video, Why RollerCoaster Tycoon is a Masterpiece. Apologies in advance, I sped the video up so I could shave off. Crazy if you think things seem abnormally fast. It's a feature, not a bug, and I've done this a few times with a few clips throughout the deck. So with that, I'll hand it over to Gabby.
So then, Chris coded RollerCoaster Tycoon and Transport Tycoon in a coding language called assembly. An absolute madman writing in near machine code. Do you know what this is? This isn't Java, Python, C++, or C#, what Chris used, assembly, is a low-level coding software that is basically the closest thing you can get to coding in ones and zeros. You have to tell the computer every waking step. For example, if you wanted to tell the computer to output "Hello World," this is what it would look like in Python, a high-level coding language. It's just one line of code. Wrong way, shit. It's just one line of code. This is what that same line of code would look like if written in assembly. Yeah, for those of you that don't know much about coding, it's just a lot more steps. Newer programming languages are still difficult to learn, but they've made it much easier for people to use, so you don't have to write 15 lines of code just to output a sentence. Python is like me saying, hey, go make a peanut butter jelly sandwich, and you'll know what to do. Assembly would mean I have to tell you, use your feet to walk to the fridge, open the fridge with your right hand, stick hand into the fridge and grab peanut butter jar and remove it from the fridge. Put the jar on the counter next to the fridge. Twist the lid lefty-loosey with your right hand, while holding the bottom of the jar with your left. And account for every tiny little step that it takes to make a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Python can interpret and abstract the fine details that assembly requires you to lay out. That's why writing a whole intricate park management simulator in assembly is just so impressive, especially when you account for the physics and individual guest behavior in the game. For example, roller coaster speeds in the game account for the weight of each guest. The chunkier guests make the roller coaster go faster, while if a roller coaster is empty or less chunky, the coaster loses speed and goes slower. By the time Chris was coding this shit, another programming language called C was becoming the de facto gamer gunk language to code games like Mario 64, other Nintendo 64 games, and PlayStation games. So why did this roller coaster loving dork use an archaic language to make such a cool and hip game? Well, partially because he grew up learning and already knew how to use assembly. And he grew up in a time where memory on a computer was so much more scarce. I mean, the computer that he started to learn to code on had a maximum memory of 128 kilobytes of RAM. Nowadays, seasoned basement dwellers like me have 32 gigabytes of RAM just to ray trace Minecraft. So Chris had to become an optimization god, which is why his games ran so much faster than even other games at the time. Even with so many processes, time tracking, hundreds or thousands of individual guest actions and interactions, and so many things happening on the screen at one time. This would have been a lot for your computer to handle at one time back then. So if you didn't understand any of that, just pretend and go, whoa, wow, so impressive. Smart computer boy make game in harder than he had to.
Y'all got the memo. Excellent. So, to this day, many game devs actually consider him to be an absolute legend of a programmer for coding and assembly this way. And I can definitely see why. And it's actually said that by the time Sawyer began developing the game, he'd been programming in 86 assembly for so long that he rarely needed to look things up, which is insane to me. Anyways, it's more than clear that the original game was a smashing success. But Sawyer wasn't done yet. His ultimate vision for his game was not yet fulfilled, so... Surprise! He made a sequel called RollerCoaster Tycoon 2 and released it in 2002. It improved on pretty much all aspects of the original. He even partnered with Six Flags to include faithful recreations of some of their parks in the game. The second game was loved by everybody. The end. Just kidding. It wasn't. So many people actually weren't happy with this so-called quote-unquote sequel. They thought it was too similar to the original, and was basically another expansion pack released in a shiny new box with a 2 tacked onto the end of the name. Reviews from critics were mixed. Believe it or not, RCT2 is actually a runner-up for GameSpot's 2002's Most Disappointing Game on PC award. In case you're wondering, that accolade actually went to Civ 3 Play the World. Though I can definitely, though I think the game is super polished and more fun in terms of features than the first, I can definitely see where critics were coming from. I played it a lot as a kid, but I also booted up the first game even after getting the second because I missed the progressive scenario unlocks. RCT2 had scenarios, but they were all unlocked from the start and there was a lot less of them. It's still great though. So by the time of its release, RCT had sold more than 6 million copies worldwide. The NPD group declared RollerCoaster Tycoon 2 the 10th best-selling computer game of 2002 and the 12th best-selling of 2003. Like the first, it was followed up with 2 expansions. We had Wacky Worlds in 2003, which focused on parks and cultures in different countries across the world, as well as Time Twister, that focused on parks based around different time periods. So while Sawyer acknowledges the second game as the pinnacle of his success, taking quote-unquote pride of place, he was actually most proud of Chris Sawyer's Locomotion. Yes, that's the actual name, I'm not just telling you he made it again. A game that he released 2 years later in 2004. This game was essentially Transport Tycoon 2. In a 2016 interview for Eurogamer, Sawyer said, "As a programmer, I think I'm most proud of Chris Sawyer's Locomotion, as I feel it was the best written piece of programming I've ever done. It was a whole load more complex than RollerCoaster Tycoon, but the coding was structured much better, and I got a big buzz out of writing code to handle different elements of the game." So after Chris Sawyer's Locomotion, Chris Sawyer stepped away from the game development world. He had been working on nothing but games for nearly 20 years and had 4 successful titles under his belt, making him a millionaire. He wanted to focus on other things. But was this the end of RollerCoaster Tycoon? No. Oh no. So in 2003, Infogrames Interactive, which would later change its name to Atari, decided to forward the franchise to Frontier Developments. They had actually previously published the Time Twister expansion to the second game, but with Chris Sawyer acting only as a consultant, Atari published RollerCoaster Tycoon 3 in 2004. Sawyer's relationship with Atari actually got off to a rocky start. In 2005, he sued them for not paying him full royalties for the franchise, and it took an entire 3 years to settle. That's a quagmire of its own, but legalities aside, RollerCoaster Tycoon 3 is the last original title remembered with any sort of fondness by fans. While Frontier definitely tried their best to preserve the spirit of the originals with mixed results, the shift to 3D change in style marked a new era for the series, for better or for worse. Even so, the third game was a smash hit with the general public. According to the NPD Group, RollerCoaster Tycoon 3 was the 9th best-selling computer game of 2004 and managed to claim 5th place the following year. If it's to be believed, the list of best-selling PC games on Wikipedia of all time has RollerCoaster Tycoon 3 in 14th place with over 10 million copies sold. Not bad at all. The base game was followed up with 2 expansions the following year in 2005. We had first Soaked, as the name implies, which added new attractions such as pools and water rides, as well as Wild, which allowed people to build zoo and safari exhibits in their parks. And though I didn't like it nearly as much as the original 2, I know many people remember it fondly. It actually still has a small but active community of fans making parks and mods, so it's obvious the game has some merit. But then, the spin-offs and the sequels happened. Scary. So I'm going to quickly go through Atari's thoughtful additions to the series. It's a bit of a mouthful, guys. So firstly, RollerCoaster Tycoon 3D in 2012 for the Nintendo 3DS. It introduced a story mode. The story was bad. It added a track limit and took away many customization features from previous titles. RollerCoaster Tycoon 4 Mobile in 2014. It introduced microtransactions. How exciting is that? You even had to pay $3.99 for the app before they decided to make it freemium. Not that that made it much better. RollerCoaster Tycoon 3 Mobile in 2015. So this one isn't like as bad as the rest of them. It was actually published by Frontier, who was the developer of the original third game. But it only included the base game and no expansion packs, so it wasn't much home to write home about. RollerCoaster Tycoon World in 2016 for the PC. The 4th installment in the main series. I guess we're just going to ignore the title of RollerCoaster Tycoon 4 Mobile that came out a few titles earlier. And this actually came out a day before Frontier's Planet Coaster, almost like they wanted to steal their thunder or something like that. And it absolutely went through development hell, cycling through 3 developers, Pipeworks Software, Area 52 Games, then Invisio Creations. It received largely negative reviews. RollerCoaster Tycoon Touch in 2016 for mobile. More microtransactions. Basically a card collecting game with an amusement park theme, but at least they made it free to play from the beginning this time. RollerCoaster Tycoon Adventures in 2018 for the Nintendo Switch. I promise I'm almost to the end of this list. So this was an adapted experience of RollerCoaster Tycoon Touch. It was eventually released on PC. Reviews weren't great. RollerCoaster Tycoon Joyride in 2018 for the PS4, a quote-unquote roller coaster rail shooter with VR support. Spoiler alert, it was very poorly received. And then we come to the end of this lovely list, RollerCoaster Tycoon Puzzle in 2020 for mobile. It was originally called RollerCoaster Tycoon Story, but it was basically Candy Crush with RollerCoaster Tycoon Edition. Not very fun. So, in 2024, RollerCoaster Tycoon is but a shell of its former self, and Atari doesn't seem to care about the originals at all. Well, it's mostly true, but if you're up to date on your RollerCoaster Tycoon history like I am now, you'll know that I actually left a title out. But first, this is trivia checkpoint number 2, y'all. So what do we have here? So, which of these official RollerCoaster Tycoon tie-ins doesn't actually exist? Is it the pinball machine, the roller coaster construction set, a barf bag, a NASCAR wrap, a board game, or the Pick Your Path book series? I saw ears over here. Nice try, but no. Second, person with the peep. Correct. Come see me afterward. So, unfortunately, there was no NASCAR wrap. But there was a pinball machine. You may have even seen it in the arcade here. I haven't been in here yet this time. The roller coaster construction set. The barf bag, yes, it's real. It was a promotional item for one of the game releases. The board game, and a Pick Your Path book series, which had 6 books in total. But if there was a NASCAR wrap, I hope it looks something like this Mustang skin somebody made for iRacing. Yeah, I think this thing was pretty sweet. I was very sad when it wasn't real. So, let's rewind for a second. So, in 2010, Chris Sawyer and his longtime business consultant of 20 plus years, Jackie Lyons, founded 31X Ltd. To serve as a holding company for the Transport Tycoon intellectual property. However, they quickly saw there was space in the market for sim titles and an interest among fans for a mobile version of the classic city/business sim. So they partnered with Originate Technologies to develop Transport Tycoon for mobile. Sawyer originally intended to stay out of the development side of the game and instead focus on funding, but he eventually was drawn into working closely with the dev team. Atari publishes Transport Tycoon in 2013. Though the game used Transport Tycoon name as well as graphics, it was primarily based on Sawyer's more recent title, Chris Sawyer's Locomotion, and the code for the game had to be entirely rewritten since 86 Assembly couldn't be recompiled for other platforms, and I do not envy their dev team at all. So, with the mobile release of Transport Tycoon under his belt with positive reception, Sawyer set his sights on giving his golden child the same treatment. Like with Transport Tycoon, there was a gap in the market for the classic gameplay of the original title. Atari publishes RollerCoaster Tycoon Classic for Android and iOS in 2016. Continuing their partnership, Originate worked with Sawyer to code the game from the ground up, translating over 500,000 lines of source code into something that could run on modern hardware. Classic was basically a marriage of the first 2 games, combining the best features of both into a single, unified experience with all scenarios, scenery, and features in a single install. And as a surprise to nobody, Classic was met with generally favorable reviews. It's almost like people like the originals the best. Exactly. So besides the original gameplay experience lending itself well to touch-based, Classic made the nostalgic title easily accessible to new and old fans, this time on the go. It was also ported to Windows the following year. Now, I can't tell you how many times I've run across people on the internet discovering that Classic is a thing that exists, immediately going to purchase it and being like, oh my god, this is so cool, like this is the game from my childhood, because that's exactly what happened to me over lockdown. But why were these games so popular? Why am I even sitting here giving you all a panel on this game right now? Well, to begin with, it was truly Chris Sawyer's love letter to roller coasters, and by extension, theme parks as a whole. And it absolutely shows in all aspects of the game, from detailed recreations of famous coaster models by a variety of manufacturers, to guest thoughts and behavior that I'm sure many of us can relate to just the general overall vibes. So I'm going to play y'all a short interview that Chris Sawyer gave for a 2016 live stream at the opening of Terran, which is a coaster in Fantasialand. You can't fake passion, y'all.
I think it's absolutely amazing. I love the scenery. I love the amount of detail that you can see and the fact that it encloses you. All the twisted track that's here. I can't wait to ride it later on. It's absolutely fantastic. I love the sound that you've got here. Absolutely fantastic. Every time I ride a new ride, it does make me think about my games and what I could put into the games or what I could change in the games. And this is the kind of ride that I like building in my games. You're going through things and close to the scenery. Just a really fun ride. So I'm really looking forward to riding it.
You look so excited.
Absolutely fantastic. It's got a fantastic first launch. It's quite a long ride. You get to the second launch and it carries on and it carries on. I love the way it lifts you out of your seat. I love the way it goes through all the rock and all the scenery and things. Absolutely fantastic.
So I thought it was really weird to hear him speak because he's almost like a cryptid. You don't ever hear from him, but so I thought it was cool to actually hear him speak. But anyways, a few fun facts on the same note. So, in an article from PC Gamer in 2020, it is said that Sawyer has ridden over 700 roller coasters, and I'm sure that number has only grown since then. In this image right here, it's from the back of the box on the original US game, and in this picture, he's riding a real coaster. So, apparently, Oakwood Leisure Park in Wales let the team ride Megaphobia, which was a wooden roller coaster that opened in 1996, while the park was still closed for the winter. This particular photo was taken halfway down the first drop, or so he says. So, as I mentioned earlier, RollerCoaster Tycoon was also a technical marvel. Because RollerCoaster Tycoon 1 and 2 were written in assembly, if you had a computer running Windows 95 and up, you could probably run the game with little to no issue. This means that even non-gamer kids could play on their potato family computers. And then there's the accessibility factor. Now, I'm not talking accessibility in the traditional sense of usability, but how easy it was for people of all skill levels to create crazy cool parks and rides given the tools. This was largely due in part to its isometric, grid-based design and its robust, but limited by today's standards, building options. Thank God it also included so many pre-built track designs for people like Kid Me, who were daunted by building custom roller coasters because she didn't know why her stats were so bad all the time. And this sort of leads into the next reason the originals have endured for so long. They truly had something for everyone. Take, for example, this wide range of people playing the game. There was Kid Me with little to no financial literacy, a love for theme parks, and just wanting to have a good time playing a PC game. And then there were people like my mom, and though the save file is lost to time, I will forever remember a Forest Frontier's save file she had that was beautifully decorated and laid out. And then we have the crazy theme park diehards recreating Cedar Point and Disneyland in this game just because they can, because why not? And not to mention the modders adding new content and features to the game just because they want more. So, in the words of Chris Sawyer, in an email exchange with journalist Victor Luckerson, it's something to do with the free-form nature of the game. Players become very attached to their own parks and their creations, so they feel like it's their game rather than my game. None of this is to even mention that at its core, the game is really a crunchy business simulator with prices to manage, debts to repay, and a park with layers upon layers upon layers of things to manage and oversee. But now for a quick show of hands. So how many of you played RollerCoaster Tycoon as a kid or knew somebody with it because it came for free with a cereal box? Yeah, see? Yeah. Bigger number than I thought, actually. So between roughly 1996 and 2006, General Mills sometimes included CDs and cereal boxes and even frozen Totino's pizzas. So these games, even though some were total garbage, were generally an upgrade from the cheap plastic toys we'd normally find. And we're not talking demos here, we're talking full complete games from like Disney, Hasbro, and Infogrames. And though I didn't get RollerCoaster Tycoon this way, I definitely spent tens of hours playing Amazon Trail 3rd Edition that I snagged inside a box in the cereal aisle. And while these freebie games were probably a lot of kids' first introductions to PC gaming, your family might want to shell out money for a shiny new computer or console game, but they definitely bought you cereal for breakfast every time they went to the grocery store. So there is still a huge elephant in the room here that I haven't mentioned. And that elephant's name is Open RollerCoaster Tycoon 2, an open-source re-implementation of RollerCoaster Tycoon 2 that expands and improves the game. Open's development was started in April 2014 as a one-man endeavor by 21-year-old fanatic Intel Orca John, and released in December later that year. Since then, more than 250 contributors, all volunteers, have worked on the project. Open aims to continue where the second game left off, much in the same way that the second game acted as an update to game number 1. It requires a base installation of RCT2 or RCT Classic to run the game. Since its release, Open RollerCoaster Tycoon 2 has added a multitude of improvements and new features to the game, including, but not limited to, complete conversion from 86 assembly to C++, native support for modern operating systems, plug-in support, fast-forwarding, auto-saving, a built-in hack/cheat menu that supports things like ignoring clearance checks, which is very important for custom rides and scenery, changing ride vehicles and unlocking scenario parameters, a new save file format removing limits such as the original 255 maximum ride shop stalls in a park and increasing the maximum map size to 999 by 999 from 254 by 254, new tracks and ride types, online multiplayer, custom user interface options, And even a new main theme composed by Alistair Brimble himself. That's actually the music you hear in the background. That's right, they got the original composer to come back and compose something for this. And I think it's very nostalgic and much like the originals. And I could go on and on and on about this. And I'm only scratching the surface of OpenRCT2. It still enjoys active support, and I see it doing so for quite a while. As of time of writing this panel, the last update was on December 30th, 2023. So OpenRCT2 pretty much serves as the backbone for the modern community. Sure, people still play vanilla and classic, but the majority of new crazy content uses Open to run the game due to its quality of life improvements, and it has flung open the door to a whole new audience of players and modders by making it easily accessible on modern hardware. I migrated to Open a few years ago after I started to get frustrated with the limitations of Classic on my iPad. And I know I barely use any of the features that it brings to the table, but even as a casual player, I enjoy seeing the overwhelming benefits of playing with Open. But back to those new ride types I mentioned a few moments ago. So trivia number 3, let's see if we have any Thuzies in the crowd today. So the hybrid coaster track was introduced to OpenRCT2 in 2020. What real-life coaster manufacturer's track was it modeled after? Yes, green shirt. Yes, it is RMC. So Rocky Mountain, that I was supposed to show you the track in case you all forgot, like I did a second ago. So Rocky Mountain Construction, also known as RMC, is best known for refurbishing and or reimagining wooden coasters that need a bit of a facelift by adding steel track for a smoother ride experience. They've made coasters such as Steel Vengeance, a reimagining of Mean Streak at Cedar Point, Lightning Rod at Dollywood, and Twisted Timbers, a reimagining of the Hurler at King's Dominion. In recent years, they have also introduced their Raptor model, a single-rail steel coaster, and you can find this track on rides like Wonder Woman, Golden Lasso coaster at Six Flags Fiesta Texas, which I'm still debating over being my #1 coaster, and Jersey Devil at Six Flags Great Adventure. All right, so now that the history and all the crazy research stuff is over, I can finally tell y'all about the modern community and some insanely cool things people have made. But first, a small order of business. I'm going to try not to jump scare you because I'll probably jump scare myself. Come on. Did we freeze up? Nope. All right. So I would be doing y'all a total disservice if I didn't even bring up Mr. Bones' Wild Ride, which is perhaps the most well-known piece of RollerCoaster Tycoon content ever created. So reminisce with me for a second. I know this isn't the original. It was originally like a copy pasta on 4chan, but I think this captures it pretty well.
Are you ready to witness Mr. Bones' Wild Ride? 38 hand-picked riders, free admission, extensive design and scenery, extensive safety testing. Just look at their faces. They're so excited. 4.48 excitement rating. 30,696 feet of track. What's not to love?
This better end with all 38 riders dying.
1 month has passed. Passengers are becoming bored. Some of them even want to get off.
That horrible fucking ROI. OP, you won't make any money that way.
I want to get off Mr. Bones' Wild Ride.
I want to get off Mr. Bones' Wild Ride.
I want to get off Mr. Bones' Wild Ride. I have the strangest feeling someone is watching me. Popularity has dropped to 28%. They seem to be scared of the upcoming scenery. I want to get off Mr. Bones' Wild Ride.
I think this is what hell looks like.
Has claimed the souls of the innocent.
Oh god, those poor riders.
This ride isn't wild. This ride isn't wild at all. 10 months have passed on the maiden voyage. The passengers are very hungry. Apparently the testing has lied about the ride duration.
Enjoy the ride.
Dear God, you sick son of a bitch. Dad, I want to get off the ride. I know, son. We all do. I want to go on something else. It's all right, son. At least we still have the motion simulator to look forward to.
By the gods, they won't even be human when they get off.
Mr. Bones, why would you do that? Mr. Bones, they're pissed.
The ride is only half over. Another month has passed and the ride seems to be growing. 1 full year has passed. We set off May of year 3 and it's now May of year 4. The signs up ahead say we made it through Mr. Bones' Wild Ride. You see Mr. Bones' skeleton army? Ever wondered how they got there? Now you know.
1 year on Mr. Bones' Wild Ride, and they're just a little hungry and thirsty. You need to kick those bastards out of the park. They brought a year's worth of food inside so they wouldn't have to use your concession stands.
The path leads to another entrance for the ride. My body is ready. Someone is getting on the ride again. All of the passengers managed to get off the ride and still know how to walk. The signs indicate that the exit is up ahead, but the path is quite long. It's time to leave. The path to the exit was 2 hours long, and we ended up here. It's just another entrance to the ride.
A true classic. But what if I told you that Mr. Bones' Wild Ride wasn't even that long? That it was just a grain of sand in an infinite universe? Enter the Universe Coaster created by Dutch creator Marcel Vos. His video is unfortunately too long to show here, so instead I'm going to read y'all an excerpt from the Kotaku article on it. Someone created a ride in RollerCoaster Tycoon 2 that will outlast our actual universe by Zach Swisen, since I think he makes it short, sweet, and simplifies the whole thing pretty well. So, quote, To pull off this amazing and hard to comprehend task, Marcel Vos first built a really long roller coaster that had almost no hills or dips. This means the coaster's train moves very slowly around the entire thing. Then, when it reaches the end, it reverses due to specific ride options. That return trip takes even longer, and it has to take this very long journey 7 times before the ride is considered finished. All in all, that ride takes over 2 years. That's long, but that's not even the universe-spanning ride the headline of this article promised. So that is achieved via 253 smaller roller coasters that are synced, using in-game options in the second game, with the larger, very slow coaster. So once that big roller coaster finishes one ride, which remember takes 2 years, one of the smaller coasters will start its ride, and that coaster is synced to a coaster that will then complete a ride, and so on and so on. What this all means is that by the time you reach the final roller coaster in this nightmare chain, it will take much longer than just the original 2 years to complete. End quote. So, this ride is, in fact, so long that I can't read you this number because I don't know how. This is a screenshot from Marcel's video. This is absolute insanity. So, Marcel Vos is perhaps the best-known RollerCoaster Tycoon content creator, and his knowledge of the game's inner workings is near encyclopedic. So most of his videos revolve around getting really crunchy with features and mechanics, how to exploit them, and generally just testing the boundaries of what's possible in the game. And so here's a calculator he made using roller coasters. Let's start by multiplying 2 and 8. And I sped it up by like 5x because it takes a minute to go through, as you can imagine. It's absolutely insane. But while that plays, here are some of the other titles of other videos he's made. How to beat nearly any RollerCoaster Tycoon 2 scenario with just 4 tiles. How many G's does a launched coaster pull in RollerCoaster Tycoon 2? I beat Amity Airfield with only Ferris wheels. RollerCoaster Tycoon 2 coaster types list. I built the densest park ever in RollerCoaster Tycoon 2. Is it possible to excavate Crazy Castle before beating it? Can you beat RollerCoaster Tycoon 2 without drowning guests? How to bully guests into buying more balloons, and the Berkristochrone curve in RollerCoaster Tycoon 2. Thank you. But then he also makes really dumb stuff like this, and I love him for it.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. I wanted to test OpenRCT2's new limits, and I thought, what's a better way to do that than to drown a lot of guests. So here I have 50,000 guests just walking around, and I'm going to drown all of them. There we go. They're all drowning, which gives a lot of lag, because remember, it is 50,000 guests drowning. It also gives a lot of lovely notification sounds telling me that a guest has just died.
It goes.
And they're all gone, they're all dead, they're all in the abyss. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.
So, also, did you know that there's a RollerCoaster Tycoon speedrunning community? Of course there is, because there's a speedrunning community for literally everything these days. So, here's a video of Marcel beating the Rio Carnival scenario in RCT2 in 36 seconds.
Let's do this.
There was actually another one where he beat the Magic Mountain scenario in 2 in under like 2 seconds, but that didn't make for a very interesting video.
Okay, that's fine. And then we need to build a Cobra.
So there's speedrunning categories for like individual scenarios, but there's also some for like the entire game, base game, OpenRCT2, it runs the gamut.
Back the loan. Is this enough? Yes, it is.
I think that takes playing the game to a whole nother level. So I personally love his content. It's clear he very much has a very deep love for the game. And besides blessing us with video after video on the series, he also streams on Twitch, runs a multiplayer and Discord server, and moderates on the RollerCoaster Tycoon subreddit. So another well-known content creator and community is Dirklink. He's also Dutch. I don't know why all these RollerCoaster Tycoon content creators are Dutch, but it's just a thing. So he has a YouTube channel where he uploads things like park making videos, such as his beautiful/awful series and park building anthologies, unique challenges he imposes on himself, open RollerCoaster Tycoon 2 tutorials and updates, and other assorted content, including speedruns and showcases. However, I'd say he's best known for DKMP, which is an open RollerCoaster Tycoon community that he fosters on a combined website, multiplayer server, and Discord server. As community head, he puts on a bunch of contests where people are given a theme that they have to build around, and I'm actually going to show you the parks from the mini video game contest he ran in late 2022, early 2023, which tasked people with making a small map theme to a video game of their choice. I figured it was on brand given the event we're all currently sitting at, and it'll also start to give you some idea of how insane the builds are in this game. So I will just let this run through. Well, that's not even it. That's just something else, but... So first of all, we have 16th place, something from Age of Empires. I can't say I know what it is here, but I assume it's pretty cool. 14th place tied, Tecmo Super Bowl. 14th place, also tied, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. You can even see there's like a little plane flying around. Like, they do absolutely crazy stuff with this. 13th place, Snowboard Kids 2. Can't say I've heard of this game, but somebody loved it enough to put it in this and it won something, so cool. 12th place, Assassin's Creed. I assume this is one of the ones with pirates in it. 11th place, Command & Conquer Generals. Haven't played it also, but I assume it's also pretty cool here. 10th place, Super Smash Bros. I wish I could have shown you the whole map being rotated, but unfortunately I couldn't fit a clip in here quick enough that wasn't going to make y'all dizzy. 9th place, Chris Sawyer's Locomotion. I thought this was so meta. I loved this so much. It's like, how many layers can we go here? 8th place, Return of the Obra Dinn. Yes, you can also change the color palette and stuff in the game, and they went ham with this. 7th place, Guitar Hero. So apparently the notes actually line up to a song. I couldn't show you the whole clip, but apparently it lines up to an actual song in the game. 6th place, another Age of Empires diorama here, and as you can see, they're using the little steeplechase horses as like horses running around. 5th place, a wheat field, but it's not actually a wheat field, because if you'll notice right here, it says cake, so you could probably see where this is going in just a second. Yeah, that was the top of the diorama. It's actually Portal in the back, so turn it around and you've got this craziness going on in the back. 4th place, Super Mario Odyssey. I don't even want to know how they made this text because I know doing stuff in isometric design stuff is very confusing sometimes, so. 3rd place, a Super Nintendo plus a TV. It has various sprites going through. And also, if you turn the television around, there's even the auxiliary port in the back. 2nd place, we've got Super Mario Kart. Of course, this makes perfect sense. And then 1st place, we have this crazy Elden Ring build. I don't want to know how long that took them, but this is absolutely incredible. So, you all thought that was pretty cool, but oh boy, do I have a treat for you. So perhaps the biggest community over the years of park makers, yes, it's a real term in the community, in their creations, is New Element Designs. Founded in 2002, New Element provides a platform for people to share their parks, rides, and custom objects made for the game. It also has an active forum on the site as well as a Discord server. Fun fact, so you know all these park screenshots I've been using in the back in this presentation? So these are all actually parks that have earned the recognition of Spotlight on New Element, which is the highest honor bestowed that they give, ranking even above gold. So it's very much an honor to be given the Spotlight Award here. So New Element plays host to a multitude of community contests and challenges, but perhaps the biggest one is by far their head-to-head competition. So head-to-head consists of a variety of teams composed of multiple park makers going, well, head-to-head. So 2 teams are matched in a round, and they try to outdo each other in creating crazy, elaborate parks. So I found this announcement trailer for their head-to-head 9 competition they held in 21, and it shows the parks that people have made for it over years. And I actually think it's pretty cool because you can kind of see how park-making styles have evolved over time. And I'm sorry it's so fast. This stuff is so detailed that honestly I could spend hours on any one thing that I have shown you in this presentation so far, but for the sake of the panel, I thought I'd be better off showing off the breadth of creations versus the specifics. So, yeah, it started in 2002. You can see it starts off a little bit more simplistic, and as it goes through the video, things get a little bit more complex over time as tools improve and as people figure out more and more tricks for building things, which is pretty cool. And now it's so quiet, guys. I guess I could turn up the merry-go-round music in the background. Okay, let's all be serenaded by the lovely sounds of Fairground Organ Style 10 in the background. But yeah, stuff gets crazier and crazier over time. Yeah, I know this makes a lot of us look really bad, doesn't it? And I thought I'd improved so much since I was a kid, but maybe not. Honestly, this music is kind of fitting for this. I didn't mean for this to happen. Dinosaur. Spider. So I actually pulled together some of the winners from Head-to-Head 9 to give you all a closer look after we finish this video. And they had 19 award categories in total, but I'm going to just quickly show you the winners for Best Park and Best Idea after we get to a good stopping point here. Though, like I said, we could spend an hour on any one thing here. I know. Just a little bit, right? Okay, so, and then it just goes through the rest, so we'll just continue through here. So let's walk through, well, before that, I guess. Hold on here. We have trivia number 4, guys. So, what real-life amusement park is Katie's World, also known as Katie's Dreamland in the UK, modeled after? Just for reference, this is Katie's World. It's the one with the notorious mine coaster that just seems to crash every time unless you go and fix it to not do that. So, what real-life amusement park is it modeled after? Is it, I'm sorry if I'm butchering this, Liseberg in Sweden, Lightwater Valley in the UK, Silver Dollar City in Missouri, Thorpe Park, or Canada's Wonderland? Anybody? Yes. I'll say Thorpe Park. Nice try, but you're so close. Somebody else. Yes, over here. Lightwater Valley? Yes, come see me afterward. So Katie's World was actually modeled after Lightwater Valley, and all of the roller coasters actually matched up to major rides in the park. So Runaway Plumber was modeled after the Rat, which was later changed to Raptor Attack in the park. Batflyer was modeled after a suspended single-rail kiddie coaster by the same name. The Storm, which is the infamous mine train coaster that would always crash partway through the scenario, was modeled after the Ultimate, a steel roller coaster which held the title for longest roller coaster in the world from 91 until 2000. And it's not known why, but Katie's World was actually missing recreations of two other rides that were present in the park at the time, Viper and Ladybird. Does that car seem familiar? You'll see where he got the inspiration. So as of 2023, all of the rides I just mentioned are closed except for Ladybird. RIP the Ultimate, it was a bucket list coaster for me.
Did they close the Ultimate because it crashed as much as the Storm did?
I hope not. I don't believe so. So with that, we're just going to jump right into some of the crazy stuff. So these were awards for Best Park and Head-to-Head 9. Third place, we have Madinat Al Harir, which is like a Middle Eastern themed park with crazy amounts of detail. And just think, this is third place. Like, this is only third place. It's crazy. Okay, in second place, we had Le Coeur du Ciel, which was a steampunk-inspired kind of floating city in the sky. Yeah, so it's very clear these people are playing a game that is not RollerCoaster Tycoon anymore. This is something else entirely. And then in first place, we had Riverview Exposition, which was kind of an early 1900s themed park. They even had little dioramas in all the backs of the buildings if you flip the park around. I had seen like some peeps walking around with like names like Al Capone and some other gangsters at the time. Crazy levels of detail. So these were all winners for Best Park, and now I'm just going to show you the top 3 for Best Idea, which I also thought were pretty cool. Let's run through it. Oh my goodness, let's not do it like that. Can we? Why do you not want to go? Hold on, let's go back. It's probably because it's trying to play automatically. Yeah, so firstly, we have this entire choreographed baseball scene, which is insane. Like, you can see they hit the ball off, the ball explodes, going, gone. They all run back to their little dugout. And now they're going to come out and do like a little, like a little thing. Yeah. Oh, and the if you hear like talking in the background, that's that was them like going through the awards video. So this is one of my personal favorites. Yes, the tentacles are actually coaster cars, and it like pretend goes down the whirlpool and spits out somewhere else.
Wraps its way down through this whirlpool and then pops out over here by the ghost ship.
Now, this one I'm going to have to explain since you can't really read anything up here, unfortunately. So in this one, they basically open it up like a murder mystery. So you see somebody gets murdered up here. And then it's like things start coming in at the bottom of the screen. It's actually a setup for the murder that has happened. So like after this, like you can actually go through and like click on rides and people with like custom thoughts and like solve the murder mystery. Like it's a whole game in a game. It's absolutely insane. And also, these were not included in either of those things, but I just thought they were too incredible that I still wanted to show them off.
As it does on this stream. Yeah, it's a little bit of a hefty...
This was lagging for them. And it ran good on assembly, so what does this tell you that we had to do to get to this point?
So I'm really liking this. And while it didn't win any first place in any award category, it did score...
It was number 3 for Best
So
Palette.
something a lot of people will do in some of these contests, it really just depends on the contest that's being run, but they'll insert custom scenery and objects, so not all of this is created using like the base game. So like you can bring other things into this to make it absolutely insane like this person did. So I know we're getting close to the end here, but I think I do have time to show you at least one of these videos if I end up having more time for some reason, because I do. We can do that. But I really love this skit by Red Eyes Green Dragon.
Wow, look at that. Fastest coaster in the world. Only $1. Why, I love me a good deal. Golly gee, the motherfucker 5,000 is just such great value.
It gives off Vine energy, but much longer in my opinion. So apparently,
Fuck is this?
So apparently, Robot Chicken also did a skit about RollerCoaster Tycoon in the early
Look at
10s.
that. Fastest coaster
Oh my
in
gosh.
the world.
No,
Only
we know it's
$1.
the fastest coaster in the
Why?
world, my guy.
Mm-hmm.
We'll come back to this. I thought I had this all fixed. Well, I guess we'll just watch this one instead.
Mm-hmm.
It's another skit by Red Eyes Green Dragon, which I think is excellent.
Oh no. Fuck, it's coming. Come on, hurry. Oh, fuck. No, it's not working. No, I'm sorry, no, it was an accident, just...
Wait for it. Yeah. So, I put these in because I didn't know how much time I would have at the end, but we gotta get to trivia question number 5. So, Rock Style 1 was not exclusive to RollerCoaster Tycoon. What other 1999 video game featured this song in its soundtrack? Yes. Yes. Yes, actually, good one. I didn't know if anybody would get that. So I was actually going to show y'all a hint in case. Yes, it's the 1999 PSX game Driver. I don't really know why this also had it in it, except for that Alistair Brimble was also the composer for this. I don't know what made him put it in this one, but cool. So with that, in my humble opinion, RollerCoaster Tycoon has earned its place in the classic video game canon. As one of the earlier sandbox/sim games on the scene, it has influenced and inspired countless people. Artists and diehards making the parks of their dreams using Sawyer's isometric world as their canvas. People who are inspired to become enthusiasts or enter the amusement industry because of this charming game and its community. Content creators who spend hours upon hours of their free time making spaces and content for the rest of us to enjoy. Even game developers like Planet Coaster and Parkitect, they are clearly love letters to the classic 2 games, with both games often recommended and regarded as spiritual successors to the original title. Oh, also, did you know that Notch has said in a past interview that the RollerCoaster Tycoon was one of his primary inspirations behind Minecraft? And just for reference, Minecraft is the second best-selling game of all time, so I think that's a pretty big deal. And then there's casual fans like myself who spent way too long on this PowerPoint, and probably many of you who cared enough to come spend an hour of your MAGFest with me when there's literally a million other things you could be doing right now. So thank you, Chris Sawyer, for the ride that never ends, and thank you all for coming to my panel. And if you tried to answer trivia, or whether you got it right or wrong, come find me and we will sort this thing out.